Welcome to 100 Million Possibilities Show. My name is Liga, and this is episode number 3. I need to change the title. Yeah, it's episode number 3. And today I would like to talk about what do you know? We living in like a era when information is like a key. Everywhere we look, we get information from one source to another source, and there are sources that lying, there are sources that telling truth, and it's kind of hard to distinguish if you actually not following what do you actually know. Because if we are, let's assume that we are connected to everything and we are connected to everyone, it means we know everything. We are just being kind of cut off from this awareness of and this knowing. And I do follow a lot of people who talk about current affairs that are related to DJT and those bad people, and there's lots of true information, there's lots of misinformation, there's lots of decoding, and people get upset when something is not true or something someone has lied, and they kind of completely cut it off. But what if we didn't go to these people as the main source of information? What if we just went there to get an information, and then we can tell ourselves what is true and what is not? Because you know everything, you just don't know you know. And so how do you know? Like, I've been following a lot, like for the first, I've been following all the DJT news and all the stuff for almost a year now. That's when I kind of got woken up in relation to this situation. I remember I was watching Golden Globes award last year, and Ricky Gervais was talking about those people who love children, and I saw someone's face, someone's reaction to Ricky Gervais's speech when he called everyone child lovers on there. I'm using in brackets because I don't want to use the bad word because the YouTube might ban the channel. So basically, when I saw like Tom's face, his reaction to what Ricky Gervais said, and something kind of clicked. That is not reaction of innocent person. And that's where I started. And these are the things that basically where you know that you know. Like, there are lots of sources where I look. Basically, it's not that like you're gonna know right away. You're probably gonna caught up information, and you probably will want to know the information. And especially if our expectations and projections are in front of our knowing, we kind of dismiss our own knowing in a sense. Like, because we so want it to be true that we don't actually want to see what is true. So how do you actually get through this? There are like lots of different tools how to get through it and how to know that you actually know what you know. One of the questions you can ask, what do I know about this situation? What do I know? What am I aware of? Like, let's say when one of the people who talks about, basically gives you information about current affairs, and lots of different emotions comes up. And emotions can be triggered because of our own beliefs, and emotions can be triggered because we are aware of something. Doesn't mean just because, like, for example, when someone talks in the news and we get triggered, we get angry. It doesn't mean that you are angry at information that person is giving you. One of the reasons you get angry is because the person is lying, and you are just angry, and your basically body knows when someone is lying to you, and you basically get angry about that. And there is like it doesn't mean like every time you get angry that the person is lying, someone is lying to you. Throughout the like time, you can distinguish, like, because there are different type of angers. Like I started to notice maybe like last year the difference between different ways I get angry. One of the, like, this information I learned through access consciousness. I just wanted to mention that. One of the reasons why we get angry is because we are distracting ourselves from something. Like, for example, we distracting ourselves from seeing something that's underneath the anger. Like, for example, like um, in metaphorical sense is like when governments put out those uh, like celebrity scandals so they can distract us from something that's going in the background, happening in the background. So, and when you're distracting yourself from with anger, you actually are distracting from something deep inside that you don't want to look at. No really example comes to my head right now, but as I talk, I might get an example. Another reason when we get angry is when we have built this potency to change something. Like I don't know, again example, like when you are getting fed up of, let's say these days is all the mask situation, all the lockdown situation, when you actually, until you like all the up until the point where you actually want to explode, you kind of are kind of okay with masks, you kind of are angry but you don't really show that, you are kind of upset but it doesn't really do anything. But there comes the moment when you just had enough, and basically all this build up before, it just kind of like putting in a boil in a pot. You put it in the pot, and basically now pot is full. And when it's full, it's basically that's where it comes out with anger, because you're so angry at the situation. But that anger is when you actually have potency to change it. And another reason why what anger comes up is when someone is lying to you. And throughout the time, when you know this information, throughout the time, you actually start to recognize. You can actually ask when you, for example, talk to someone, or when you get listen to news and you get angry, you just ask yourself, is this person lying? And you will know. And then you start to recognize all these different kind of angers. And the same is with everything. Like there have been like people I'm kind of following and listening to the information, and I start to notice like something icky is there. And I start to ask question, is this person for real? Is this person lying? Is this information they giving me real? Maybe sometimes there is like I know that there are people who are intentionally misled to give us information so they can actually let the enemy know that to give enemy the wrong information. And you have to kind of take a note of that, because not everyone who gives you information is bad. Just because they maybe gave you misinformation or they lied to you, it doesn't mean that they did it on a purpose. We are so used to believing someone to the 100%. Like when someone, it's almost like you can either be a lying bastard or you have be truthful angel. It's almost like there is no in between. I have lied in myself to other people in my life, and I've lied mostly to myself. It doesn't mean that I'm a bad person. That doesn't mean like everything I've done is bad. It just depends how you deal with it and how you move forward with it. So, what do you know? Ask yourself that question daily. What do I know? What do I know about this situation? What am I aware of in this situation? Sometimes people talk, but you get the energy behind that. And the energy behind it is more important than actually words they are saying. And this is something we need to kind of start to build up, especially we are so used to governments and celebrities and all these people lying to us. It is difficult for us to distinguish what is lie and what is truth. And sometimes we go into this frenzy that we don't understand because we are trying to understand with our mind, not with our heart and not with our awareness, because we don't have only five senses. We have more senses that are, even with a hearing, it's kind of one of the like physical senses. With a hearing, we can hear things that are underneath the usual volume of, I don't know the correct terms to that. Or with eyes, when you see something with a corner of your eye and you don't and when you look at it, you notice that no one is there, nothing is there. It doesn't mean that nothing is there. It just means you can't see it with like physically with your eyes. Sometimes you can actually see it. Like when communicating with entities. I don't know if you know that or if you actually done that. But sometimes when communicating with entities, it's you can see them, but you can't see them with your eyes. It's almost like there is a mental picture in your brain that creates that image, and you can actually see it. And I think the classes or courses that offers you to communicate with invisible world are a great place to start to actually practice your knowing, because it is not easy at first if you are so used to just trusting what you see, what you hear, or what you feel, like with a touch or what you smell. It's so hard to actually trust invisible. Like even smells. Sometimes when you smell something, it doesn't mean like there's actual smell in the world in your area. It could be actually that there is, I don't know, if you smell like a smoke, like cigarette smoke, there could be like entity next to you that actually used to smoke. And that's one of your senses, how you sense that entity. Um, I remember like lots of times when doing these classes, like I'm not doing myself, I'm just attending classes where you can communicate with entities. And once you start kind of to practice this play with invisible work, with your knowing, you kind of can tell in your room where is entity. Like it's almost like that presence in your space when you feel like someone is behind you and you look and there's no one. Don't discard that, oh, it's just like, oh, it just seemed like that. It's actually not. It's probably you are sensing something, you just don't know it. And so yeah, so how do you practice your knowing? one of the ways is you do like a classes with channeling. I know the Lori Ladd did really great classes channeling, and that's something you practice every day. It's not gonna come like like when you learn to build a house in a class. You can build a class. You know right away that you can build a house. You just need the practice to perfect that skill. It's the same with like invisible world and with your knowing, because you have to be source of your knowing. You can't give 100% trust to someone else. If you give 100% trust to someone else, you always gonna be hurt. It's like in a relationship, when you give all you to that person, you will get hurt because no one wants to be 100% responsible for you. That's why meditations are really good way to actually go into yourself and find the answers there for everything. You can like you don't have to, like lots of people say, oh, go do sorry, you go and do your research and then you will know. Like, it's actually what I've noticed. Like, I've done some research but even that you can't trust, because people put out false information even if you do research. If I want to do like a proper research, I would have to actually go to the source. I would actually have to go to the all those I don't know, spirit, what the parties they did, like bad people did. I would actually have to see like real footage and or be there to actually see that this is actually what happened. Even then, if someone gives me a video or something, I can't be 100% sure with my like five senses that information they're giving me is real, because there are so many Photoshop pictures. There are so many doctored videos out there, and even information. If someone says like this is someone's brother and this is someone's sister, I have no way of actually 100% doing research to actually know that that's true. But you have your knowing. You don't have to go out there and shout to everyone, oh, this is this and this is that. But when you know, you know. And if you can ask, like, look at, like, it's almost like a meditate on the picture or video and ask the video, are you for real? Is this true? How much of this information is true and how much is not? Like, for example, in Russia, they have really popular like a reality show called Psychics as the Detectives. So basically, there are lots of detectives, not the detectives, sorry, lots of psychics that actually go, like, people send them letters and tell them, like, for example, my husband died in mysterious circumstances, and no one is looking for the killer or something like that. And so these psychics actually go out and actually investigate these cases through paranormal spectrum. And like, and lots of the things that is it's not, as any reality TV show, you can't trust it 100%. And then you can actually ask how much of this is true. And I get, actually, like, for example, I was watching one episode yesterday, and I ask how much of this is actually true, and I get the number 70. So I kind of know that 70% of what they are telling me is true. It doesn't mean that information they're giving me is 100% true. Again, you have to go into this deeper. And, like, for example, because lots of situations there are filmed just for the purpose of the show, because so many things are happening behind the scenes. They can't put like an hour show showing you everything, like, because actual investigations takes so much longer than just 40 minutes. So oh, my cat is doing something. So lots of situations they have to kind of theatrically put together. And so it means you again, you have to use your knowing and you have to ask questions. And you have to become observer of the situation. You can't be emotionally involved. When you're observing situation, you actually notice so much. Like those people who are like, let's say you are in a party and you're maybe one of those people who are like heart of the party. You are just fun and you do jokes and you do that. And then there are people who actually, or maybe you are someone who actually sits in a corner. And what I've noticed, I'm mostly the person who sits in a corner, especially if there are lots of people. And what I noticed that when you are actually in center of attention, you can't actually be that aware of the situation because you are actually emotionally involved in the situation. It's almost like you're boiling in the same soup as everyone else. And it's difficult unless you're really practiced your awareness and your knowing. You can't be aware of the soup. It's because you're part of the soup. But when you step outside and when you actually observe the situation, you actually notice so much information. You you notice the relationship between people. You notice like how actually person actual feels who actually is in the center. If that's why I actually loved going to these coffee shops and just observe people and see in their universes and see because just because someone does something or says something, it's just the surface. It's like a tip of the iceberg. But when you actually observe the person and kind of get a sense of what the person is, then you actually really know instead of like scratching the surface. And the same is like situations. Like you can actually look at all the, I don't know, like a false flags in this sense, like 9/11 or what others, but or like all the racism cards they played last year. You can actually, when you kind of observe the situation and you kind of go dissect it with your feelings and knowing, you actually can know what is true. And plus with information that is given to you from all the sources. Because when you are boiling in the same soup as everyone else, you can't see what is actually there. Like I'm gonna give you an example. I wasn't DJT supporter as of I become DJT supporter only like a year ago, and even then, when I was coming out of the kind of condition of him being a bad guy, it was hard. But before that, even like noticing things that bad guys are doing, like when I was kind of believing that bad guys, Barack Obama, yeah, bio, it's a funny like abbreviation. Like for example, I saw him as a good guy, but when I saw him doing bad things, it felt like no, it's not true. Even like the thing is in front of me, or with current US president, when I saw him like sniffing and touching and grabbing, I said, no, it can't be true. Like, even though the picture is in front of me, like the video is literally in front of me, and you can see that that's not doctored video. I said, no, it's not true. Because you have all these beliefs and emotions towards these people, and you're boiling in the same soup with them. You can't see from the outside. And all these, and then at that time I saw like Trump supporters, and I thought, no, why do they believe he's a good guy? He's like clearly the bad guy. And these things kind of start when I start to put these things together, like in one pod, like these signs that something is icky. Then only then I was ready to actually see the full picture, when I had enough of these things. But when you're boiling in the same soup with everyone else, you can't see what is there. You have to step out. You have to look at the picture from outside. You can't be emotionally involved. When you're emotionally involved, you can't see what is there, because in 5D there are no emotions. Like there are no anger, there are no hate, all these things. They are not in 5D. And when you're living in a 3D, you have to step out of it. You have to step out to see actually what is true. Because when you are digging in the same pile of shit you always been digging, you can't see what's actually around you. So I don't actually know if I have anything else to say about this topic. So just basically practice your knowing. I mentioned a couple of tools in this video. If you haven't watched it from the beginning, basically ask yourself, what do I know about the situation? If I knew what's true, what would it be? What am I aware of in this situation? Because you have to look underneath the hood. Like when you buy a car and it's all shiny and nice and sparkly, I was like, oh yeah, it seems fine. Like I'm buying it. But the more experienced buyers know you have to look under the hood. It's the same with every information that comes our ways. We have to look under the hood. We can't, just because we want to believe something, it doesn't mean that it's true. And we have to follow our awareness and our own knowing to actually kind of happily navigate through the current situation. And when you are not emotionally invested in something, it is easier for you to navigate through it. So thank you very much. Follow your knowing, follow your awareness, and if you want to know more about my daily tips, just go in description. There is like a link to my channel if you're looking at the super channel. And yeah, I'll see you soon again. Thank you. Bye bye.